Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be playing the most popular medium tank in the game, bar none. It is the Leopard 1. Today I'm going to be letting you know exactly why so many people are playing this tank. Well, firstly, let's get the elephant out of the room. A lot of people playing this vehicle, like me, last month, from which you're going to see all of the gameplay in the video today, playing to be able to get the Leopard 120, right? The new Tier 11 German medium tank, which, spoilers, if you watched my video last month as well, you should not be getting your hands on. It is probably the only tier 11 that I would thoroughly recommend is just absolutely awful compared to its previous counterpart. The only reason why you might enjoy the Leopard 120 more than the Leopard 1 might be just the matchmaker, but that's something that's only going to last at least for now, and progressively as more and more people get tier 11 tanks, is going to get worse and worse for tier 11 vehicles all in all. So, the Leopard 120, go check out that video from last month. It's basically worse because the gun is worse until you sit there for pretty much twice as long as its reload, and then it finally gets better than the Leopard 1. Add to that the fact that it has barely any more hit points. It just doesn't really have anything going for it at all. Its feature is, you start at tier 9 and then eventually end up at tier 11 if you don't actually use the damage per minute of the vehicle. Absolutely horrendous. Talk about horrendous. You're about to see an absolute apocalypse, and that is sliding down a slope behind a full health mouse with the possibility of lots of tank destroyers over towards the right. This is being on 69 hit points. Nice, but not so nice so early on in the game. But let's see what we can do with the 2,000 damage that we have dealt so far this battle. It's starting off with a shot into the mouse, apparently, and then thinking, how do I get out of this one? I have a KR1 behind. Luckily, the KR1 misses. Maybe if I just go sit here, that the mouse is going to be a little bit of a potato. I've got to try to avoid the possibility of TDs behind, and luckily, he was a potato. The FV405 managed to club right through the side of the turret, and after falling off that slope, sorry, I'm still at the end of this horrible bloomin' bug that I've had over the last couple of weeks. Sorry there haven't been so many YouTube videos the last couple of weeks, guys. It's just been, I felt absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. And as you can see, the residual of something that I've got stress right now thinking, am I actually unmuting my mic, or am I going to have to re-record this entire video? Thankfully, not. But falling off that slope, complete disaster. I only managed to put one shot into that mouse. But what you're going to see here is possibly a huge comeback, right? And another reason why people absolutely love the Leopard is it doesn't really matter how many hit points you're on, unless you get hit, right? And the Leopard is just so good at using its gun handling, using its accuracy, to be able to avoid, well, not avoid taking the hits, but to make damage while hopefully just not getting caught. That E50. I guess I should be angry at him that he just shoved me around the corner, but happy that he actually took the shot for me there, I guess. Although I'm pretty sure he wasn't trying to take that shell, let's be honest. It's definitely one of the worst things about World of Tanks giving away free accounts, is that you have people like that E50 playing more. But I'm not really sure if that is even a free account, considering they have some of those decals that you could only get, I believe, from the Chuck Norris Christmas. So that player's likely been playing World of Tanks for quite a while now. Man, how sad is it that I remember that 99% win ratio, I'm only warming up, as a Chuck Norris thing? Chuck Norris, the commander inside the game that was fun for about, literally one battle. And then after the dad jokes run dry, yeah, the commander was just very dry at that. Unlike the Leopard 1, man, this tank, it's just got so much pizzazz to it, right? It's been a fan favorite since it was first introduced as a line way back. It wasn't one of the original mediums. The original medium was that E50, the tank that just shoved us around the corner, right? But the Leopard 1, since it was introduced, was just everybody's glass cannon fantasy medium, right? But not a fantasy tank, because it's actually real. Probably one of the only tier 10s that are actually in this battle that's kind of a legit real vehicle in that regard. But who's counting anyway? Definitely not Wargaming's development department, that's for sure. But just this vehicle, just so nice to have this god tier gun. It truly is a god tier gun. I wouldn't say it's the best gun on a medium, right? I'd say like the Object 140's gun now with that incredible damage per minute and 7 degrees gun depression. is getting pretty close, now with 340 alpha damage as well. But undoubtedly, if you want to snipe and have lovely gold pen with not having to faff with heat, you just got lovely APCR. Not so nice for shooting relatively thinly armored surfaces that are very well angled, as your APCR is going to bounce at 70 degrees, whereas your heat will go in up to 85. I guess that's one of the advantages that you'll have with the Leopard 120. But just such a gun, such a gun. So in this game, it looked like we were going to absolutely trounce our opponents with that push play down the east, but then we got held up, and then this KL-1's done a really good job of causing us hell. And so we went up on the hill, intentionally fell off the hill, of course, to go get some farm, right? And are now back up on the hill again, hopefully doing some work to be able to stop this game from being a loss, as we're still down by 1,500 hit points and pretty darn even on tanks. And yeah, just to check, oh, we still have that 69 hit points. You probably will have the 69 hit points, right? Considering that this is the absolute glass cannon. Definitely not a reason why people are playing this vehicle more than any other medium tank in the game. The armor on this thing has a lot to be desired. Although, as you'll all know if you've watched my Leopard 120 video, the Leopard 120's turret is actually worse than the Leopard 1's. The top of this vehicle is actually not nearly so flat. It's actually quite rounded towards the top of the mantlet, which means that when you're using your gun depression of 9 degrees on this tank, that the top of the turret can actually manage to be ricochet quite a lot of the time to APCR rounds. Whereas when you're using the Leopard 120, the bar on top of the vehicle is completely flat, and so it gets penned every single time. Yeah, I'm really not painting a good picture of this verbessert tank, which means improved, right? On Deutsch! But I tell you what, the Leopard 120 is anything but verbessert, that is for sure. So I feel really sorry for all of the people who have clearly been grinding the Leopard 1 over the last month, which is why there's like 2.5 million battles, I believe, or is it games that have been uploaded with Leopard 1s in them. Absolutely wild stuff. The next most popular vehicle would be the Batchat, another vehicle which has a tier 11, probably why a lot of people are grinding towards, or grinding the Batchat to be able to try and get towards a tier 11 as well. However, the Batchat, it's kind of like a third less with regards to the games played. So there's 50% more people playing Leopard 1s than there are playing the Batchat 25T, which is also crazy to me when I think about it, because the ASXX, it's an okay medium tank. It's not a great medium tank in that regard. I'd say that the Shakal and the Hack are clearly better, in my humble opinion, than the ASXX. But you know what? If you want to have one of those big boy autoloaders that you can get for that tier 11, it is lovely for doing some of the Blackrock missions as well. For sure. The ASXX with that just big boy mag, capable of doing some of the harder Blackrock missions if any of you are struggling. Over the slope and shut them down. There we go. And that's the second time we've gone down this slope this game. That's an unusual thing to say, right? And gosh, what did we make it? 2,000 damage, now becomes 7,000 damage and 5 kills. And that is just absolute peak Leopard gameplay. It really is. Not the peak over the ridgeline. That definitely wasn't very good. But it really shows you that this vehicle, tremendous gun, great ambush tank, amazing if you can control the engagement. And when you've got pretty okay camera rating as well of 10.5 when you're moving, and all of the mobility, 70 kilometers an hour, faster, 5 kilometers an hour than the Leopard verbessert. Another reason to not really want to get that vehicle. Then this thing just absolutely pumps. And it's now me in a T110E5, and hopefully the FV215B183 is a one-shot. And poof! What a comeback, guys! 7,600 damage and 6 kills. Big boy ace tanker here on the Mines map. We might have not blocked anything with 0 damage blocked. That's understandable when you have to kind of like win the game against that 430U at the start of the battle. So there's 2 things to learn here. Number 1, don't be a dipstick like me and fall off a slope. And if you are, definitely try and sweat to make a comeback in the game. And secondly, sometimes winning the hill on mines just allows you to, it just makes the rest of the battle fall into place. And so investing those hit points into securing the kill against the 430U at the start of the battle, did it pay off? Yeah, I think it did big time. And I think that's one of the hardest things that you're going to have to master when you play the Leopard. Look, it's a vehicle that has no armor that's good at sniping. Lots of people will prefer to play this thing at the mid to long range distance where it is safer. But I honestly think that if you play the Leopard in that way, you're just not going to influence the battle as much as you probably could do by risking it for getting forwards. You know, when you get a turbo on a tank like this and you're going 75 kilometers an hour, you can challenge anything for getting into a position, especially this batch. And I'm just praying, can we manage to track him twice? If we can track him twice, it'll be lovely. But there we go. No repair kit on the Batchat. They've lost pretty much 800 hit points, just under 800 hit points. And by getting forwards, hopefully our team will as well. Maybe we can get a free shot in the Dravits in the side here. But man, that thing, oh, a little bit unfortunate there. Definitely one of the things that I still am not 100% decided about on the Leopard, even though I've played it like hundreds of times, is the penultimate field mod on this tank, and whether you should lower the accuracy or improve the accuracy. On my Concept 5, I actually improved the accuracy on that tank and turn it into this like god tier vehicle. But for the Leopard, I feel like I need the DPM. This does feel like it's a DPM based tank with that lower alpha damage compared to the Concept, and not so much about hitting your shot and then hiding and recovering, but more about just getting the shells in, and boom, that's a shell. Right through the front of the Batchat turret, that 86 hit point Batchat, and I didn't even take a hit from the side. You got to be really careful in this position, however, because this position loves to get absolutely dumped from tank destroyers over here. So if you push, do it cleanly, boys and girls. And I'm actually avoiding getting proxy spotted by the Batchat here to try and swing round, so that if I go into this position, I'm not going to get shot in the side. If I was just to crest the ridgeline above there and get spotted by the Batchat, I would be doomed. But luckily, now we're going to have the side of the Dravits. I'm going to be loading gold, because that vehicle, man, it's an absolute beast of a tank. Try and get rid of them as much as possible, but a complete waste of the premium ammunition there. Maybe not so much for the lower plate at this kind of an angle, though. That lower plate with the space protection is rather troll, and that Dravits is not going to be very happy. Not going to be progressing on towards the Black Rock very quickly. Although, we don't know if the player has the Black Rock or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. All I know is they're in a platoon with Artie. And so he's got to sit and watch his buddy click a little bit. And that's exactly what we were worried about earlier on, was the FV215B183. Shell into the back. Man, there's very few tanks that I'd rather play at tier 10, especially mediums, and even an HE switch here. Another thing to absolutely love about this vehicle is the 105mm of HE pen that it gets, meaning that we just get a little bit of extra. But maybe if I hadn't intuition switched, maybe I could have shot twice there. Maybe, possibly. Right through the side of the Leopard, sorry, the T100LT, one of the most important tanks you're ever going to be able to get rid of on a map like this when they get caught out in the center. If we can shut down that light tank, feathering around the rocks there to see if we can find a shell and find our next mark. It's oh so important to be able to allow our light tank to be able to start to dominate the center, because as soon as you dominate the center, yeah, your tank destroyers are going to start to flow. And man, once again, a game that we see where we're down by 6,000 hit points here. We're going to have to do some work if we want to get back into this game. But yeah, no real need to rush into this one. Another thing that you have to think about on this map, and I'm trying to see if I can manage to hit the artillery at the back there with my HE shells. Another thing to consider about when you play the Leopard 1 is what kind of a build should you take? I've got two builds on my Leopard 1. One is the gun rammer, the vents, and the turbo to try and contest the position and to have the DPM when I'm there. The other build that I have, I'm going to drop the gun rammer and the turbo. I'm going to use an exhaust and a vision system instead. And that's for those really bushy maps where I kind of want to become a pseudo light tank with a really big gun and a good chunk of hit points, although not that many more hit points now than light tanks. And it's definitely been one of the downsides of the Leopard 1 recently, is that previously this did feel like it was just slightly a larger light tank, but now that all the light tanks have had their hit points buffed, the disparity between this and something like a Rheinmetall Panzerwagen has been severely diminished. As a lot of you will have been seeing in Onslaught recently with light tanks, you know, having that resurgence, even vehicles like the Tessak with the incredible firepower that thing's capable of, and the hit points to go with as well. Man, old school feathering right now. Before we had the outlining, which let us know where the edges were. We used to have to do that all the time. My wrist definitely doesn't miss those days. But luckily, with the Leopard shut down, now that means that my light tank has got some good vision in the center. And as long as the enemy don't make a breakthrough along the north, it's starting to look a little bit better for us in this game. So this is just Leopard 101, really, that kind of quintessential mid-range play, getting the snipes in, supporting your team, laying down the lines of fire, and also lines of vision as well. You must secure those lines of vision, but it's also very important to know when it's time to react and to invest yourself into the game. And that is against this mouse and this breaker. If they push around that corner and they went after those heavies, then they'd be hull down against me and I would be dead, mate. Should have gone for the guy's cheeks there and not the lower plate, even though it was green. Looks like I missed it. Hopefully I'm going to correct my decision and go for the cheeks instead. Boom, baby. There we go, shut down. And whoa, here comes a KR1. I'm going to ask the BZ-79 for a little bit of help. I'm going to bounce the breaker, which means we get a free shot into their lower plate and also helps the BZ-79 to be able to put a shot in. I saw the breaker fire, which is going to allow us to get a shot. And I'm going to choose to track the KR1 instead to try and lock them in place. And baby, the KR1 takes 2 extra hits. And I'm going to hopefully finish them off here through the side of the upper plate. And man, even with gold, not 100% chance of going through the KR1 at that angle. Wild stuff. So we get hit by the CS-63, we get hit by the breaker, but this is where investing those hit points was just so important. We get the KR1 shut down, we stop the enemy's advance, and importantly, we keep these low health tanks alive. Keeping guns in the game is one of your keys to success. And it's just a different kind of game to the one previously on Mines, right? On Mines, we rushed up, we went ham with our hit points early to be able to give our team an advantageous position, and to, importantly as well, not just give our team the position, but to deny it to our opponents. So by denying the hill to that 430U, it meant that we were able to dictate the flow of the battle using the hill on Mines. Here instead, we took the early position, but luckily didn't have to pay a big price to be able to gain it, and so in turn can now invest our hit points at a point of the game where we can keep our guns in it and make a huge comeback. We were down by 6,000 hit points in this battle, although, you know, to be fair, some of the vehicles over towards the north might have been outside my render distance and maybe they were actually very weakened. And oh, come on M48, just give us a little taste. Just a little taste, mate. Just a little taste. Okay, well, T100LT is going to get the taste instead. Shame on 4 kills. Opportunity maybe for a Top Gun, possibly a Radley at this kind of stage, if I'd been able to pick that one up. But let's not get greedy. This game is still close. We're only ahead by 600 hit points or so. But oh, baby, that's not what you want to sit in front of. And I'm not sure if the FV was going for me or going for maybe the bat chat behind. All I'm happy about is that I get to stay in the game. We get 1,000 more assistance on the Leopard, another 200 on the GWE-100, and finish off the GWE-100 as well. We also spot the other arty with an HE shell loaded. Will this be my Pascucci's medal? Looks like it will be. One-shotting there with the HE shell and with that lovely 105mm of HE pen. Now it's about hunting the FV while also not getting caught by the BZ-75. Sorry, BZ-79. But with the FV shut down, it is just now a formality to see if we can get a couple of extra kills in this game. And the butt of a BZ-79 just looks so delicious. There we go. And an ammo rack as well. It means they're probably not going to be able to reload quickly to get me. The CS-63, however, aiming at me now. So I'm going to use that last HE shell to knock a tree down sideways. And then I'm hoping that now I can drive out into the bush again while still spotting the CS-63 and get that final shot in against the BZ-79. Unfortunately, he keeps kiting me. I look to see where the T100LT is to make sure that I'm not messing with him. And that pesky T100LT picks up another kill! That was meant to be my Radley Walters, bro. But look, we wouldn't have got through this game without the T100LT. And you know what? If I wanted the kill, I should have shot the shot, right? Before I was fully aimed. Another cracking game. 10,500 combined here in the worst possible matchup for the Leopard 1, just showing you that this thing has the speed to be able to get position, the gun handling to be able to target those weak points on the heavies, and often be able to get the shot off first before your opponent have a chance to be able to slap back. So one more for the road. This time I'm going to be playing on my Plays for Free account because apparently I'm an idiot and I don't even listen to myself, and I'm trying to get the Leopard 120 at least unlocked on my Plays for Free account as well as my main account. But you're not going to buy it, are you, Uncle Scrubs? Well, to be fair, I don't really think that Wargaming are going to be discounting any tier 11s for any time soon. We'll have to see what they have planned for Holiday Ops, man. Maybe for Holiday Ops, they might give us like a 10% discount off the tier 11. Who knows? But what is even 700,000 credits right now, right? It's just like an hour of play with boosters. At what point is a discount a discount? Man, it makes me really miss the top of the tree discounts, right? They were meaty top of the tree discounts. Like you get 2 million credits off a tier 10. what would, you know, 10% off a tier 11 feel? Pretty much nothing, right? But maybe I'm doing Wargaming a disservice. Maybe they'll be more generous. But maybe they won't even discount tier 11s. Anyway, I digress. Let's focus on the matter at hand. That is that, yes, I'm using a vision system and an exhaust. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm playing on the Fjords map before Wargaming have changed it. So this was the previous patch. Rest in peace, Fjords. I personally thought it was an absolutely fine map. I had no problem with it. I quite enjoyed the way that the game played. At least if the STRV actually just relocates to the A8 area and just slaps this Leopard 1 in the back, I would appreciate it a little bit more. Mate, shoot the Leopard! Go up there and shoot the Leopard. Maybe he'll listen, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just sit and wait for somebody to spot for him. But the thing is that I can't spot for him unless he uses his WASD and goes into the corner and literally just shoots the Leopard for free. But you know what? Maybe he got to tier 11 in some other kind of way rather than actually playing his Swedish tank destroyer. Maybe, possibly, who knows? I'm trying to be constructive as I can, but alas, it's not going to work out. So, you know what? We're going to have to go to the mountain instead of make the mountain come to me in that case. It sounds like a lot of an easier task, right? I'm going to spot the Leopard again, come out around the corner, see if it can catch a shot in the back, and oh my lord, there's an FV405 that nearly one-shots me. That would have been a complete disaster. All because the STRV didn't relocate and catch that Leopard while it was possible. But luckily now the Leopard is gone, you know. I'm hoping maybe that FV405 will be a good opportunity. And woohoo! Are those HE shells into Hirschkäfers for 579? Boy, I love shooting glass cannon tanks. And ladies and gents, this is why sometimes that vision system exhaust will pay off way more than sort of like the gun rammer turbo. Not only will it keep me hidden, hopefully, from some of these pesky glass cannon tanks, but also it's hopefully going to allow me to be able to spot them out for my team. And while my team don't really seem to be the best of snipers so far, you don't know that that's going to be the case at the start of the battle. And you got to go for what you think the majority of the time is going to be able to get you through. And at least on the previous version of this map, I probably wouldn't take vision system exhaust now because everything's just hull down and sits up in the north. I'm not going to come to a conclusion about this map and about Wargaming's map changes. What I will say is that my knee-jerk reaction now, and you also need to take into account that when you're thinking about change, that unless change fixes something that you think was broken, you're never going to really feel that change is good, right? I personally had no problem with this map. I had no problem with the highway map. And I think the changes have made these maps significantly worse. They just feel like heavies can just go wherever they want and sit in hold down positions and push whatever flank they want. I feel like there's less room for tanks with vision. I feel there's less room for tank destroyers. I feel there's less room for light tanks, and Wargaming just seemed to be hell-bent on making every map super favorable for heavies and mediums, in my humble opinion. And I'm not talking about the mediums like this one. I'm talking about the mediums that really don't need to be any more favorable. You know, those Soviet mediums with good turrets and good hold down capacity and all of those aspects. Whereas the glass cannon mediums, which are meant to be played in you'd hope like a little bit more of an intelligent fashion by sniping or out-spotting their opponents like we're doing here, or trying to change the meta a little bit to not just be a push forward and shoot everything, but also try and play for vision, you know, with a vision system exhaust to try and dig them out. Because, you know, sometimes you're not playing with premium consumables. Sometimes you can't have all of the advantages that every other player wants to have by paying for it. And so you can't have kind of like that accuracy and the DPM and the crew skill advantage. But what you can do is use your map knowledge and set your vehicle up with equipment to be able to give yourself other kinds of advantages. And that was what I used to like to do on this kind of a map. And I would still probably do the same thing whether I was on my free-to-play account or if I wasn't on my free-to-play account in the Leopard 1 on this kind of a map. But now, you know what, might as well just push it really and just shove. And that feels like that is what the meta is of World of Tanks at the moment. Just push it and just shove. But boy, this is turning into a spicy game of World of Tanks for our free-to-play Leopard. So instead of just going into close quarters combat with those vehicles and probably getting caught by the IS-7, I'm hopefully going to do something a little bit more intelligent, and that is that I should probably swing around the rock towards my right. Am I going to see it? I should probably be back behind there. I hope I'm going to wake up and actually do that. Yeah, thank goodness. That position's actually lovely. A, I'm not in the cap circle and making myself a big target. And look, I could have easily died here, guys. I could have got hit by that IS-7, that BZ-75. So I should have done this earlier. And this position earlier would have been absolutely lovely to be able to use these bushes to the left and to the right, and be able to get some free shots in, and also be able to get some free vision in, apparently. And this is where I should have been a minute or two ago. But man, this game's getting spicy. What was that? 9,400, 9,500 combined. Hopefully with this shot it's going to be a 10K. Easy peasy, easy peasy. Man, Leopard feels great. Even with this vision system exhaust build, this thing just feels like it pumps. It feels like it snipes. And while that shell would have probably hit if I'd had the chocolate for the extra 5% accuracy, you know what? You can't always be using premium consumables. Unless you have a premium account and you have WoT Plus and you pay to be able to have those advantages. But I tell you what, those paid advantages didn't seem to stop us here with this 11,000 combined game free to play without the chocolate. So, all in all, Leopard 1. Do I think that it's like it's the most played medium because it's the best? No. The armor on this thing significantly holds it back. And honestly, now that wargaming are just pushing the meta more and more and more to be just shove forwards and go hold down and play like that, then vehicles like this are going to become less and less useful. I actually have very little faith in wargaming's map balancing department because quite often what they do is they take the awkward maps that aren't really super easy to be able to just shove through, and there's a really obvious position to just go and push, and they make obvious push positions. I really feel like they've made a lot of the maps worse recently, but I don't want to get too depressive about it, because maybe it's just a me issue, and maybe after I play the maps 100 times and I've worked them all out, then maybe I'll enjoy them more. The thing is I can't really see myself enjoying them more in a vehicle like this. But I digress. That's a different video and a different discussion altogether. The Leopard 1 is a great glass cannon medium, and while I'd say it's actually below average for its carry capacity for the majority of players out there, it's still a fun one. It's still a fun one. The gun feels good, it's fast, it can push a position, it can snipe. It's just easy. It's like it's like a Sunday lunch, roast meal, right? It's just comforting. It might not be the best for you, or at least in this case, the best for your team in being able to push through and to win, but boy, does it just feel awesome. So would I recommend racing towards the Leopard 1 and getting your hands on it? Everyone's going to have fun. But the thing is, in this tank, it is a glass cannon. It does require intricate knowledge of spotting mechanics and bushes and timing your plays and confidence in your aim, because as soon as you don't have that confidence in the aim, then you're basically just a big XP pinata for the enemy to farm. There's one final comment I'd like to make about the Leopard 1, and that is that Wargaming seem to think that it's toxic for the game, and there have even been rumors at times that Wargaming were considering nerfing the Leopard 1. I think it would be an absolute catastrophic disaster for them to do so. I have no problem with seeing tanks like this in the matchmaker. Absolutely no problem at all. They're fine, they're big, they're juicy, they're wonderful to shoot HE at, and sure, they can snipe me. But they're not big alpha damage tanks, they're not big autoloader tanks, they're not OP armor tanks, they don't have like 14 degrees of gun depression and so on and so forth. These are tanks that, if they're fun, and people enjoy playing them a lot, I am all for them being inside the matchmaker, because they're relatively untoxic, at least in my opinion. So Wargaming, don't do anything stupid and gut the Leopard. It's an absolutely fine vehicle. It's actually, I'd say, the backbone of the World of Tanks matchmaker, and I think that it's good for players, it's good for the matchmaker, and I think it's good for the game. But again, don't rush and just grab the most popular vehicle thinking that it's going to be the one-trick pony for you. There are far better vehicles for pretty much everyone to get their hands on. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the Leopard 1. Do you think it's the most popular for a reason? Or do you think that a lot of misguided players are just playing it because it has real life tangibility and they want to get the Leopard 120? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.